So let's say you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, welcome to another Let's Tour a Creationist Museum with my wonderful guests, Eric and Erika.
We're both here. We're both raring and ready to go.
It's true. Erika, I just realized now that, I have two series in which you and someone named Eric are involved. But they're very different Erics.
Yeah. That's me. I've got the cat on the background. Sorry, dudes.
No worries. But actually... Oh, goodness. I don't need this guy here.
The huge difference is one of them is actually intellectually honest, while the other one isn't.
Well, yes.
Shocking. Someone can be intellectually honest and have a root name Eric or Erika.
So, but actually that came to bite me at one point because, let's see, what was it? I was doing some other stream. I think it was Kent with Bent or something, and in the pre-show, Nikki Daly came in, and she said, "Oh, I was watching your last thing with Eric and Erika," and so that's the title of I was thinking it was the our thing where you and I, Erika, talk about Eric Hovind, and yeah, so I was like, yeah, Eric can say some stupid things, right? And there's Nikki like, well, I wouldn't say that, and I was like, oh wait, what? I was like, did you mean Eric Vierthal? I was like, oh my goodness, no, I did not mean that. No.
Wrong Eric.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm sorry. All right, but we are here. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, maybe when I was a YEC, but...
Oh, well, yeah, probably. I mean, you would have had to have said some stupid things at that point. But let's see. We are... By the way, it's awesome. We got 31 people here, and I just want to say, Kakara, which is David, I try to keep video commentaries down to 3 panelists because once I go over, it gets a little bit hard to not talk over people, and it tends to go overly long. So, yeah, that's one of my little rules of thumb. So sorry about that. But let's see. Today we are continuing with the next episode of this tour of the Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum. I am not actually linking to it for the same reason that there is a little $sign over the short person's face. Because that person is a minor. So I have, whenever his name is mentioned, it is going to be just silent. And whenever, and basically, yeah, his face is going to be covered. And that's why I'm not linking back, because I don't want this series to be a source of embarrassment for this kid later on in life, nor do I want YouTube to come after me for featuring a kid in my video who I didn't get permission from his parents to be here. So
I hope one day genuinely you get an email from this kid and he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for protecting my That was really embarrassing."
Well, yeah. I just saw this. What I think would have been really funny is if when you're bleeping out his name, instead of just muting it, what I think would have been really funny is if you would have put in something funny, like I don't know, like say somebody shouting out something random, or say like a cat meowing or something.
You should have done the Mothra screech.
Oh, the Mothra screech? Oh, yeah? Well, that reminds me, this is not officially a let's get drunk thing. Everyone is welcome to drink whatever you want, but I am not going to be playing any drinking games on this one.
Oh, no, this is difficult to kind of hold that dam of stupidity in. And if that were to unleash, I don't know about you, Dapper, but I get a little bit meaner when I've got.
Well, we have time for that tomorrow, Erika, because if you remember correctly, we were holding off on getting smashed for episode 3, so you better get yourself some cider.
Oh, I know. Well, no, actually, okay, you want to hear a really big bummer? So I'm actually doing like a carbohydrate purge of my system, which sucks. So instead, I'm gonna have to go with low carbohydrate drinks, which limits me to the incredible realm of vodka or White Claws, and those are two opposite extremes.
I would go vodka, but let's go in with this, and we'll see what's going on.
I know you would, Dapper. Let's start.
Welcome back, junior paleontologists, to the Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Well, we are back to continue our tour through the Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum. We want to welcome you again. If this is your first time joining us, we are a museum located in Glendive, Montana, about 30 minutes from the North Dakota border, right in the middle of dinosaur and fossil country. And we are glad that you're here today. We are a museum that present our exhibits in the context of biblical history, which simply means that we believe that the Bible is an accurate history of the world and that the flood of Noah's day is what laid down the fossil record.
Or your interpretation of...
Yeah.
No, your faulty interpretation of the Bible.
I thought for a moment there he was going to say, instead of in the middle of dinosaur country, that he was in the middle of dinosaur adventure land, and I was about to tell that kid to hightail it out of there.
Yeah, too.
And he's in the ocean room, so you never know. There might be. Let's not get too dark on that one, but.
Oh, I know what you were gonna say.
Yeah. Oh.
Let's move on.
All right. Yeah, but I do also want to say, does it invalidate you as a museum if you're spouting things that are absolute nonsense? Like, would it be possible to actually have a museum that you could reasonably call a museum that's doing things like just spouting nonsense about flat Earth, say?
Well, to be fair, at the museum, they do teach you a few legit things about how to find a fossil and whatnot. So, in that sense, yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like if you're going to talk about a creationist museum, it has to be a museum of creationist artifacts. Like, if you want, like, copies of, like, creationist books, and you can talk about creationism as a movement. But I feel like if you're a museum and you're promoting something that's so factually inaccurate as to be just laughable, I don't know if I can give you that title.
Yeah.
It's almost like people tend to think that in order to be a museum, there's just, like, a minimum number of bones that you have to have. and the rest is kind of inconsequential, but I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe they can call themselves they can call themselves a museum so long as it has like pseudoscience kind of off the side there.
Could put it in like some scare quotes. The Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil quote museum.
Or an asterisk next to museum.
Oh.
Reality may vary.
All right. Write your congressmen and your senators and your MPs and your whatever else you guys have out there. Let's get it going. Let's get the museum has to be real act.
Now that we mentioned museum, we definitely should not give the Flat Earth Society any bad ideas.
Oh, they don't have the resources to start a museum. They don't have the resources to take a trip to Antarctica.
No, they don't have the resources to take a single transatlantic flight.
Right. I mean, yeah. There's like one guy who's like, I'm flat Earth millionaire, and he, like, I've seen his garage. He doesn't look like a millionaire. He doesn't look like he's poor, but he's not a millionaire. But here we go.
So we ended our time last week on Thursday. Isn't that crazy? It's been a week since we started these. And we ended here in our marine room. We've gone through our seafloor exhibit, and then we started here in the marine room counting some of our clownfish, or what's another name for them? Nemos, yeah.
All right, so I don't know if you guys remember, but last time this kid had no idea that anyone was calling clownfishes Nemos. How hard do you think he coached this kid to make sure that this time he got it right?
He pulled him aside and had him watch both Finding Nemo and its subpar sequel, Finding Dory, just to make sure that we've got, we've really got those blue tanks and clownfish mingling with our mosasaurs.
It's like, listen, kid, you're gonna get the little jokes I tell this time.
I have to find my son.
All right, that was just a little aside, because I noticed that this kid is like, oh, immediately, he's just like, I'm calling them Nemos, guys. No, I got it this time. Like, yeah, okay. I wonder how hard he had to coach him, but...
He was really proud of that joke initially, and the fact that it fell so flat was very clearly devastating.
Oh, man.
And what makes me feel old is...
Oh, sorry.
What makes me feel old is that Finding Nemo came out almost 20 years ago now.
Did it really?
What a bummer.
2003, so...
Oh, and then Lorenzo S. says that Flat Earth millionaire isn't a millionaire like Trump. The thing about Trump, though, is that while his history of making businesses profitable is sketchy, he clearly has a pretty large total net worth. I mean, he actually owns a lot of stuff. So...
Can you just imagine the dumpster fire that would be discussing creationism and politics in the same video?
Ooh. Well, that's one of the things, though, is creationism tends to be pretty political. It's the only avenue they have.
Yeah, it tends to be pretty evangelical, so.
Yeah, well, the thing is, creationism makes no headway in science, right? Because it's completely absurd.
Which is that in some states, creationism is taught in the public schools.
Right, but that's the only way they can do it, is by doing the political thing. Because if you can get enough idiots together, you can get them to vote for anything.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's not forget that private schools are also a thing where they can just completely shield young children from any semblance of conventional science.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, they put their money where their mouth is. They did the Zion oil drilling company or whatever, and then quietly shoved that to the side.
Well, they didn't quite shove it to the side. They just started using conventional geology.
Yeah, their whatever mission statement was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They got rid of that.
Yeah, that was altered quite a bit.
Turns out, let's keep going.
And we're going to get you caught up because in your junior paleontology sheet, there is a question about counting clownfish. So why don't you point out where the clownfish are that we've already seen? Start right over here. And I'm going to try to use a laser pointer, and we'll get the camera over here to kind of zoom in and
I do want to say to the audience, while this kind of counting thing is going on, the original video was at 18 frames a second, so it's not super high quality video that we're looking at here, so that's why it's looking a little ugly.
Oh, right there's 3.
The video camera they used was almost.
We're going to try this with a laser pointer and see if that helps everybody out, see some of the things that are going on.
There's 2 over there.
Okay, we'll wait for the camera to get over here, and we've got 2 more right here. You can see them. The camera might need to come around over this way. And we've got 2 right down there. All right, and then let's keep moving around. Where else we got one? We got one. So where are we at? How many's that?
4.
Did we kind of lose track? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5. And then what do we got over here?
6 right there.
6 right there. And then let's see.
And then that's.
Is that? I think we're missing one. Let me see. Let me see if I can recount here. 1. Oh, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6.
I gotta give some props to the cameraman for focusing on things that are actually interesting, while this kid and this old man just go around counting fish for no reason.
Yeah.
So good job, cameraman.
The camera was like, "Listen, Grandpa, we need to cut the Nemo segment. People don't like it at home." And he's like, "Okay, we'll cut it." And then he got in there and slipped it right under the.
I know, but I do like this cute little display with you get the little Pleasee Asuras with the baby one and the mama.
I know. I thought that was cute last time.
It is. It is.
Oh yeah.
I just wish it were in service of something less stupid.
Oh, I know. Yeah, you really got to feel posthumously for these specimens in the same way that you feel for the allosaur that Ken Ham has. In his possession.
Goodness!
Didn't he name that Ebenezer?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't name it Methuselah. That would have been a much more
Yeah.
name.
Well, I think Ebenezer is a bit of a pun because it etymologically is derived from the word rock. And so it's a permineralized skeleton, so I think that's what they're going for, was like a pun there.
I think you're giving them too much credit.
That could also be. Maybe they're not nearly as clever as I think. Okay, yeah.
Because anybody who's capable of that kind of science pun is probably not working at Answers in Genesis.
Oh, yeah. Got a point there.
Or maybe that some of them know that the science there is bullcrap, but they are only there because of the money.
The production route. Let's hit it.
Well, I will say, I do know that Georgia Purdom knows that some of the stuff they say about genetics is just crazy. But you know what? It's way easier to come out and talk about geology as a geneticist than have to continuously publish actual peer-reviewed papers in real peer-reviewed journals.
God forbid. Georgia needs to allocate some of those resources. Oh, I'm so mean. I'm gonna stop before I say something mean about Georgia. I always pick on Georgia for it and for very wild bang situation.
Maybe you should go get some vodka, Erika.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that would make me a little bit nicer. I'm kind of going on all cylinders.
Or you'll just get unleashed, and we'll get to have that.
You don't want full G-Man mode now, do you?
Even with G-Man, you didn't go full G-Man mode, so I don't know.
I know. Okay, come on. You know what I'm eager to get to. Our teeth conversation.
7. Yeah, we have 7 there. So we're up to 7 clownfish. Sorry for the confusion there. We kind of got a little off on some of those. And we'll hit the other 2 clownfish here in just a second. But let's turn around here and
we don't care about the
talk to you a little bit about this room. Now, I'm going to kind of ask you some questions here and see if you can help answer them, okay? If you can't, that's fine. Just say you don't know or guess or something, and then we'll try and figure it out. Now, when you find creatures in the fossil record, there's some really big creatures, isn't there? This turtle is a perfect example. Look at this turtle. Could you come over here and stand by the turtle right here in the light so everybody can see that? And see how big that turtle is compared to... Now, I think that turtle could swallow you. Yeah. I think that turtle could swallow you, and there's probably enough room right inside his tummy to keep you in there for a while, isn't there? So that turtle is absolutely huge. Now, this is
why is there light vore in this video?
Why is there what? Oh, light vore in the
I what?
I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that at all. If I was a youngster, I would be like, what a weird thing to ask. I get where he's coming from, but I mean, I find it very doubtful that organism would find eating a young child to be appetizing anyways. I don't know. What do you know about carnivorous sea turtles?
I don't know of any sea turtles that have vertebrates as a big part of their diet. Even
that was my thought.
So, from what I know, and look, I'm not an expert on sea turtles, right? And especially not extinct sea turtles, but I don't know of any sea turtle species that feed on anything other than basically jellyfish and seaweed.
That was my thought. Even if you've got a quite a large sea turtle too, you would think that the vertebrates would be somewhat supplementary.
Yeah, I don't think well, for one thing, sea turtles aren't exactly speed demons that they're going around chasing fish. There's a reason that the fastest thing they eat tends to be jellyfish, which can't see them coming generally.
Yeah.
It's also why sea turtles have an unfortunate habit of swallowing plastic bags. Because a plastic bag floating in the ocean is very hard to distinguish visually, even for a human, from a jellyfish bell.
Yeah.
So,
between that and the ringed beer holders and soda holders, the turtles are at a severe disadvantage.
Yeah. So if you want to see something disturbing, you can find videos of people pulling out dozens of plastic shopping bags from a sea turtle's stomach while it's under sedation.
Poor baby.
Yeah,
that is sad as hell.
Yeah, and I also even saw this one picture of like this turtle that was caught in like those plastic containers, like with sodas, and like got sucked into its shell, and then its shell.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, it's almost like its shell is in the shape of a figure 8.
Yeah, because it grew around that.
Yeah. I saw one of this guy the other day who he's just chasing down seals on the coast, like these itty bitty little brown seals. I don't know their species or genus, but he like chases these seals down, and then he's got like a little thing of pliers, and he pulls fishing line off of them. It's very cute.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, they shuffle off, and I kind of look back at him like, "Thanks, dude, I guess." But
oh, we got a message from Keegan Rankin, who says that sea turtle diets mostly comprise of cnidarians, poriferans, and algae/marine plants, which is what I basically thought. There's not a lot of chasing down tetrapods in the mix of a sea turtle diet.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking as well, but I didn't know that for sure. I'm glad we are leaving this a bit more informed.
Yeah. Oh, and Andrew Cummings says that actually some species of jellyfish, like the box jelly, have several eyes, up to 20 each. And that is true. And in fact, they are often image forming, but they also tend to face distally along tentacles in order to help with prey trapping, and not so much along things like above to protect against predators going after their bell, which is the preferred method for predation by sea turtles. So it is true that some of them do actually have fairly good eyes, but there's a big caveat in there.
Yeah. All this talk about torture of turtles. Okay, so one movie that you both would absolutely hate. Tim probably. Dapper's probably.
That's all right. My first name is public.
Yeah, Dapper's probably heard about it. A movie called Cannibal Holocaust.
No thanks. I've heard tale of this film, if you can call it.
All right, so what we're gonna have to do is some other time, maybe as a hangout where we can watch it with people on Top Hats Off. We're gonna have to do a twofer. We'll do Cannibal Holocaust followed by Green Inferno.
Oh God, yeah, that is a twofer, isn't it?
Yep. Don't bring snacks, guys. Don't bring snacks.
Don't bring snacks.
You won't want them.
But don't bring. You're gonna watch the Human Centipede either.
Yeah, no. All right.
This turtle has a length of 11 feet. It's 11 feet long, and then it is just absolutely incredibly large. Now, there's other animals that we find in the fossil record that are really big as well. We find some fish that are really big. We find the mosasaur, and we find the T-Rex, and we find all of these creatures that are absolutely huge. And the question I always ask people is there a biblical explanation as to why we would find really big fossils?
What do you guys think? Is there a biblical explanation as to why there are big fossils?
Because the Bible doesn't care to address that.
I don't even think the Bible authors are aware that there is such a thing as a fossil, like fauna.
Yeah.
Based on the giants of old from Genesis 6, I think God just likes big things.
Well, I guess you could say that. Yeah, maybe.
Well, let's put some big fish in there, whatever. Lead sick thieves. Yeah, I like it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, and there is a lot of interpretation about the Nephilim. Like John Walton argues that they're just people putting order, while others say that they're aliens. Others say that they're giants, and yeah. There is a plethora of interpretations about them. But yeah, I personally do agree with John Walton's view.
Okay, let's see what these guys think the biblical explanation is for that. There's big stuff in the fossils.
Prepare for strawmans.
Really big creatures in the fossil record. Can you think of anything in the Bible that might help us explain it? Can you think of anything?
No.
No? Okay, well, let's talk about
You go, kid.
And I'll kind of ask you some questions as we go, okay? So first,
one thing I have to say is, because I know the kid's name, every once in a while I'm like, you go, nope, don't say the name.
That's big mood right there. Do you have any idea why the Bible might say there are big things?
No.
In the record? No. I'm vibing with this guy right now.
Yeah, no, the kid is clearly the best person in this video.
we think that the environment was a lot different before the flood to after the flood. Because again, remember, we think these things were buried during the flood of Noah's day. So before the flood, we think there might have been it's possible there was higher oxygen content and carbon dioxide content. The plants that we find in the fossil record are absolutely huge. When we get upstairs here in the museum, we're going to see a plant that today is really small, but before the flood was really big.
It's not in this video, but I vote it's the lycopod.
Yeah, that would have been my guess as well.
Eric, I think you've seen it. Is it a lycopod? Did we get it right?
Man, it's been it'll be 2 years in August, so I would have to see a picture of it.
Okay. I'll say this. 1 in the chat if you think it's going to be a lycopod, if we ever get there, and 2 in the chat if you think it's going to be literally anything else.
Yeah, F's in the chat too if you can't be bothered.
Well, there's that. Yeah, you can just I don't care.
It's going to be pretty cool. So we see things that are really big, probably because of environment a little bit. Also, when God made everything at the very beginning, it was all perfect, wasn't it?
No,
it was absolutely perfect.
The Bible never said perfect.
Did you know that before the flood...
I just want to say, okay, so if things get smaller as things get less perfect, let's just accept the premise, right? So things get smaller as things get less perfect, which means that nothing alive today should be as big as the largest anything around in its environment in the geological past, even if a flood is true, right? So why is it that the largest vertebrate, the largest animal known to ever have existed, exists right now? The blue whale.
Don't you see when when God really, when he sent Jesus down to die for everyone's sins, that obviously did not include the cetaceans because they're already as close to perfection as one can physically get.
Oh, the whales just kind of skipped over the whole curse on creation as a result of sin.
They didn't inherit the fall. They're good.
Okay, all right. Well, way to go, cetaceans. You guys get the special gold star for getting to ignore the effects of sin, I guess. And also, I want to say we have a lot of ones in the chat, so it looks like ones are definitely winning. I don't think we have any twos. We do have some Fs. So,
that God would just skip one creature from from the curse that YECs advocate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, for $2 from Vandali 1998, we have, so before the flood was totally the Carboniferous. I mean, basically, that's the kind of atmospheric conditions, roughly, that creationists pretend were prevalent basically up until a few thousand years ago. And even though that's not even something you can support for anything much past the Carboniferous, right? Like, it's...
Yeah, keep in mind, too, they use that to explain our big arthropod friends, and then at the same time, they want to shove in all of the synapsids that enjoyed the super arid environments of the Permian into the same time frame. But these guys have no concept of inferring a paleo environment from, like, isotopic ratios or, like, the kind of plants that we find in the same layer or whatever. All of that is... we just eyeball it.
Yeah.
Looks like a desert to me.
Looks like a desert. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, like how last time when they're talking about like the Cambrian, like and in that same section, I forgot the creature's name. They had a creature from the Cretaceous.
Yeah, there was a little late Cretaceous plesiosaur hanging out under a bridge or something, like a troll.
Oh, I liked that one.
It was nice. Well, that's because you like ugly things.
I do. No, that's absolutely true. All of my favorites are like the most hideous Permian guys hanging out. I love them.
Let me guess. Favorite New World monkey is the proboscis monkey.
Only the males.
Okay, only the males. Got it. The females, with their normal noses. Get out of here.
Hey, if you like ugly monkeys, you ought to check out the Wakari as well. That's our bald-faced New World Platyrrhine friends. They're very awesome. They all look very sunburned.
All right, here we go.
People lived longer than they did today. Did you know that? Yeah. So let me ask you this question. Before the flood, who is the oldest guy recorded in Scripture? Do you know his name? Go ahead. What did you say?
Noah?
No, Noah was really old. He lived a long time, but it was actually...
This kid's just not playing along.
Just
the top
and
wasn't available.
You can write in the comments if you want or whatever, but Methuselah. Can you say Methuselah? Say it really loud.
Methuselah.
Good job. That's a really hard name to say, isn't it? Now, let me ask you, how long do you think he lived?
1,000 years?
Very close. He lived 969 years, the Bible.
Nice.
Mm.
The problem is
we're gonna get nices in the chat though for 969 years.
Yeah, big nice in the chat.
Yeah, the most biblical scholars from the consensus by studying the context. On the people back then, like would use numbers in like a more metaphorical sense, and so yeah. They definitely are misreading scripture like through modern Western eyes. I mean, those numbers were never meant to be taken literally. And even Bill Ludwell showed that one picture like that. If people really did live that long, their faces would be all messed up.
Yeah, because certain parts of you don't stop growing, like your nose and your ears.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point, though. The Babylonian king list also falls prey to the same situation, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think they used a root 12 instead of a root 10 as well.
Yes.
Or base 12 rather than base 10.
The base 60 or 12.
It might have been 60. That might have been it.
So I know the Babylonians had a base 60 system. I'm not sure about all of the other Mesoamerican cultures.
I think or Mesopotamian.
What did I say? What did I say? Mesoamerican?
Mesoamerican.
Whoops.
I was like, we're bringing.
All right, take away my history degree. I'm gonna go burn it in the trash later.
I was like, oh my god! I think that's the first time you've ever had a historical slip up like that, Dapper.
Oh man, yeah. All right, never mind. I didn't actually graduate with a history degree.
I'm just, but yeah, I think that's an excellent point. A lot of the cultures, and by the way, I just messed it up myself. I said 12 instead of 60, but for the Babylonian king lists and stuff like that, they've got these exorbitantly large ages, kings living thousands upon thousands of years, because they're not using 1 or 10, they're just really ramping it up. So I think there's definitely room for that, considering how close those cultures were. But YECs don't like that. They like the literal English King James reading.
Hey, actually, I think King James only is probably the minority in creationists.
I know, but they're the loudest.
Oh my goodness. By the way, guys, we got 69 viewers, which is nice, but only 23 likes. Hit that like button.
Yeah, come on.
I just clicked the like button.
Awesome. Oh, Erika, you're breaking my heart.
Now we only have 68, 67.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they didn't like that. Oh well.
Okay, let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Fun. Just like
That's a long time.
I'm sorry. What? You're cutting out a little bit, Eric. Sorry.
We do have one dislike, but they're probably from a YEC.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the dislike.
How long do people live today?
About
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's say 80, 90, 100 years, somewhere in there. I'm glad he didn't say 50 because I just turned 50. So I wouldn't have much time left then, right? So if people lived longer, let's say 10 times longer before the flood than they do today, do you think it would be fair to say that animals lived longer before the flood than they do today?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, because every species is the same, even if we accept that humans live that long.
We're going that route, huh?
Yeah, yep.
That would make sense, right?
No,
No, it wouldn't.
Did you know that some sea turtles today can live to even 150 years? 150 years old, that's incredible. So let's take that times 10. If we took that times 10, now we know that you can't just make these comparisons.
We do know that, which is why no one does, because it's stupid. But let's let you do it anyway.
Perfectly, but if we take 150 times 10, that comes to 1,500 years. Is it possible, let's look at this guy, is it possible that this turtle is a 1,500-year-old turtle?
No. No, it's not.
Is it likely that it's a 1,500-year-old turtle? No. But is it possible? No.
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 Yeah.
It's not.
it's possible. Doesn't mean that it is evidence.
I mean, just think about what would happen to your joints after 1,500 years.
I'm more worried about the telomeres about this guy. I mean, the degradation in the entire genome is going to be pretty obscene at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that some of the oldest organisms that we have today are like your Greenland shark or something like that, at least as far as our chordates go. And they do not look good.
No.
500 years old. They do not look good.
No, and nearly all of them are blind because they get eye parasites at some point in their lives.
Their metabolism is abysmal. I mean, they just float around.
Yeah, it's... I don't... Even if you now look at like the 150-year-old tortoises and whatnot, they don't look like they're in their prime. Although, I mean, tortoises are born looking like old men, so...
Oh, they're so cute. I
But
love them.
even then, when they get to be 150, you're like, oh, this is clearly not a turtle who's in the prime of its vigor of life. Like, this is...
Yeah, so another kind of angle that you can look at this is some of our more longer-lived mammals, right? Why haven't they, if we're assuming everything lived at the same time, why haven't some of our longer-lived mammals also exploded in size, right? I mean, if you're going to take a sea turtle and then blow it up to be, I don't know the scientific name for this, large ancient turtle, but could you not just do the same thing for any of our longer-lived mammals, your ungulate, or not ungulates, your hippos, elephants, whatever?
Well, I think they're going to go into the fact that indeterminate growth is more common among diapsids.
No, so okay.
So,
Well, in that, I don't know, because we've got giant, Japanese salamanders that live to be quite old. So shouldn't we have giant ancient salamanders that are, much larger? Like, or what are they going to point to the super or something? And
here's something that's interesting. So, speaking of giant Chinese salamanders, they're in a group of quite a few organisms that show up in the early Cretaceous in the fossil records of both North America and East Asia, and that still persist to this day, including hellbenders in North America and both the giant Chinese and the giant Japanese water salamanders, as well as some other members of the sort of reptilian fauna. And it's one of those biogeography things, because at the time, there was almost certainly a land bridge that let ceratopsians, tyrannosaurs, as well as things like giant salamanders and a lot of plants, which is why there's this weird correlation between China and Japan in terms of fauna and North America, but it kind of goes away until you get to some of the very late Ice Age animals. And then there's those two little weird correlations, but then if you look at the rest of the different organisms that wouldn't have been able to cross over at those times, yeah, completely different. It's almost like... I know, it's almost like maybe the flood story doesn't explain biogeography well at all.
Yeah, you would think that it would, with all those giant floating forests transporting fauna.
And we have a $5 super chat from Vandali1998 who says, the turtle told his grandkids, I was in the garden and on the ark.
Is that possible? Yeah. Some people have even said, wouldn't it be cool if this was one of God's original turtles that he made on day, well, if it's a sea turtle, day 5 of creation?
My God, Vandali actually nailed that. I did not think we were going all the way back.
No, this is a primordial turtle. This turtle never hatched. It sprung forth from the sea, I guess.
It sprung forth.
If he predicted the future.
I like to picture the creation event, like that scene in Lord of the Rings, where in the movies where they're like digging the Uruk-hai out of like weird sacks in the ground, and they're all covered in dirt, and they just emerge and like choke someone, and like I'm alive now.
Oh God, I like the idea too that these guys spend a lot of time talking about how fossilization can only occur under hyper-specific conditions, and that it doesn't happen anymore today. And then we just happen to get the fossilized form of the original primordial turtle.
Oh, and also the thing about the fossilization doesn't happen today. It's like they're unaware of subfossils.
No, and multiple different methods of
fossilizing. It's like we found things that were in the process of fossilizing when we found them. They're no longer fossilizing because they've been removed from that environment. But the fact that has happened means that, yes, there are things fossilizing right now that we probably haven't found because we have subfossils. That's a thing.
Numerous different means. You've got tar pits, volcanic pyroclasts. Pyroclasts. That's the big.
Yeah, those are the.
Down,
mostly ash, but it's like super hot and it flows down the mountain. Yeah.
Almost like instant fossilization. You've got ridiculously arid lakes that anything that are not arid.
Alkaline.
Yeah, alkaline. Yeah, and saline lakes too, where anything that kind of finds itself plopping in is almost instantly, fossilized, or rather dried out and preserved. Hyper-eutrophic lakes do the same thing. So I don't know. These guys Really, my biggest advice to anyone who sees out there is to perform a cursory Google search before taking any of these larger topics on.
Go to Google Scholar and type in taphonomy. That's with a PH.
Yeah,
just type it in.
Or just start with the wiki article. I mean, that's going to be on.
This is something. Yeah, going back to Rings, it's really hard for me to take any of those movies seriously after seeing like that South Park episode of it.
Well, South Park can make anything ridiculous. All right, here we go.
If he had created this on that day, that would be pretty amazing. It's possible. We can't know that for sure, but we like to think about those things. That's pretty cool. So there are biblical explanations as to why things would have been older in the past, but does that help us with size? Yeah. It does, because some animals continue to grow their entire lives. Now it varies, it's not always a consistent growth, but some...
I like this. It's not always a consistent growth. So I actually devised a little experiment to show us why that doesn't work. And unfortunately, I'm not going to easily be able to show it to... you know what, I'll just... No, whatever. So, let's say we have a creature that's born, and in its first year, it's going to septuple its size. So this is a prodigiously quickly growing organism, right? And it has indeterminate growth. It just keeps growing. But every year, it grows by a factor of half of what it grew by the year before. So in the first year, it's going to be a size of 7 from what it was born as. But then in the next year, I don't care about 711. It's going to be times 3.5. Okay, but then the next year, it's going to be times 1.75. Okay, but then the next year, and one of the things that we'll notice is that as we get closer and closer to 1, or actually we'll go below 1, right? So, let's do 1.75. Huh. Oh, wait, hold on. I have to add in another... Why is that? Whatever. Times 0.75. Basically, why is this going... Oh, right, because I'm not increasing... Oh, I'm doing the math slightly wrong because I'm an idiot. But anyway, if you graph it out, which I did earlier, sorry about that, I'm not ready to do math again. But anyway, if you do that, right, even if you start with a very large thing and you significantly reduce the factor by which it's going to grow every year, what you're going to do is you're going to converge on a maximum size, right? So no matter how long it lives, it's going to approach a particular maximum size, and it's never going to get bigger than that. So, yeah.
It's not looking good. Let's put it
No. Yeah, I realized what I did. I was supposed to be adding a 1 into some of those to keep it above 1. So, sorry about that, guys. But right. Yeah. So, I should have been multiplying by 1 plus some factor. So, do that if you do it correctly. Not like me, because I'm apparently an idiot who can't do math on the fly without thinking about it too much for a live show. But yeah, you approach limits. And that's what happens in the real world.
Quick shout out to Icarus here, who says, "How does a huge 800-year-old Noah fit onto the tiny ark?" I have not considered that, but that's an excellent point.
Oh yeah, if that's the reason. Oof. Good job, Icarus. I like that one.
Even if we're focusing in on, reptiles and amphibians do this more, you would certainly expect that you're getting a bit of the same ticket with our hominids. With the hominid, yeah. But then the other thing, though, is, Erika, that they're only going to be bringing on the juveniles, because nothing ever goes wrong. Nothing ever goes wrong when you take an organism and you raise 2 members of that from infancy in isolation from other members of their species. Oh yes, our social living animals tend to do quite well. They definitely don't get warped when we isolate them.
In fact, even many broadly solitary organisms will have trouble, because even the most solitary of organisms have to come together, because there's this thing called mating. And if they have no idea how to interact with members of their species, that's not going to go well.
Yeah, remember that time that Leviticus was like, hey, let's not inbreed.
Oh, there was that too, yeah.
Count back then.
Well, actually, Kent Hovind likes to address this by saying, well, the law against incest hadn't been given, so how do you know it's illegal yet? It's like, the reason it's against the law isn't because someone came up with a law one day. It's because it's a bad idea, right? Regardless of the actual legality of incest is a bad idea.
And yeah, that was why that I pointed it out in that one video when we did that Dragons or Dinosaurs. If you have to do mental gymnastics about why God said that it was okay to do incest, you seriously need to rethink your theology, because that's just utterly disgusting.
Well, one of the things is we can see the effects of a preference for close kinship in reproduction in places where that's the case, because there are places in the world where there is actually a preference for first cousin marriages, and they have higher rates of birth defects. Surprise, surprise.
Well, it's very telling that even take any social living primate, which is, of course, almost all of them, even they have single-sex dispersal patterns, or sometimes bisexual dispersal patterns, for the sole purpose, it is that instinctual to keep inbreeding from occurring within the troop.
Exactly.
Let's not propose that we're all, dumber than geladas over here. So.
Well, careful, because there are human cultures that prefer first cousin marriages, so
the cultural application, the ethnocentricities of it all definitely complicates things.
Yes.
I guess far be it from me, to judge another culture, I guess.
No, I'll judge it. It's a bad idea. If your culture prefers first cousin marriages, go against the cultural grain for the sake of your descendants.
From a strictly biological sense, it is a bad idea.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And same thing with ritualistic cannibalism. You don't want to get kuru. Let's keep that off the table.
There's no cure for kuru. You just avoid getting it by not eating people. That's how it works.
It's generally a good plan to not eat within your species.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Fish, some reptiles, turtles, things like that, keep growing. So, you could have a really big animal simply because it's older than all the other animals, and it's older than they get today. Isn't that cool? So even in the Bible, we can find reasons why we find big creatures in the fossil record. So I think there's a couple things on your sheet we're still missing.
I like
here.
the idea that Moses is taking that from these guys' perspective. Moses is taking down, he's writing down the Pentateuch, and he's like, oh man, he's like, I really need to put something in here about how animals just get bigger because they live longer. I'll just allude to it vaguely, and then in the future,
they'll figure it out. Yeah, they'll know.
If that were the case, if animals get bigger by size, then why hasn't my dog here grown all that much in
Well, to be fair, he did say not all animals are indeterminate growers. Of course, that doesn't explain why we have large, canoidean carnivores in the fossil record. Why are the borophagines so big? Creationists never address borophagines anyway because they don't know what they are or what to do with them. So.
Over here. Let's go over here just really quick before we leave this room.
Back to the mosasaur.
So on your matching sheet, there is a...
I kind of want to get a copy of one of these sheets.
What is this one?
Fill it out.
Again?
I had it.
It's a mosasaurus. So look at mosasaur is number 4, and then match it with that head. So
video
I think she's got it
up on my part anymore.
It's not?
Yeah, no.
You might have to drop and rejoin. It's coming up for you, Erika, right?
Yeah, I've got it.
I think you had a little bit of a connection interruption, so we'll give you a couple minutes to try and get out and rejoin.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully we're good. Also, I really do like this mosasaur mount.
The thing is genuinely, like we were speaking last time, some of their displays really are quite excellent, and that's the shame of it all.
I know.
You'll
hear you.
Do we got you, Eric?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can you see the video?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the Creation Museum in Kentucky is evidently redoing a bunch of things, and like I said earlier, they posted this video where they've redone their whole humankind, ape kind separate deal, and they have a really cool like holographic superimposition for their absolutely abysmal, I'm talking a miscarriage of science reconstruction of Australopithecus afarensis.
Oh, the one that just looks like a gorilla from a 1990s movie?
Yeah, it's just a knuckle-walking bonobo, according to them. Even though Lucy... of course, these guys think that we only have one afarensis specimen, and that it is, in fact, Lucy.
Right.
Even though we've got a great many more, some of which are almost complete, than that. But their whole reasoning is essentially, we don't have the hands and feet for the specific Lucy specimen.
So we'll ignore the knees and the hips.
Do it, so we'll do it.
You know what that reconstruction always reminds me of, though, is the non-killer chimpanzee from or not chimpanzee, gorilla from what's that movie called? The one with the white gorillas and they go crazy and kill everyone in that lost city in the middle of Congo.
Oh
yeah. What was her name? Amy? I think her name was Amy, right?
Yeah, I think so. I know the one you're talking about, but I can't for the life of me think of it.
And of course, like every movie gorilla, it's just played by someone in a suit.
I know, and the sad thing is their very poor afarensis reconstruction is actually adorable. It's very cute.
Oh yeah, well look, I'm not going to knock Creationists for their sense of aesthetics. I mean, they've got that pretty well nailed down.
They do, and the thing is in reality, afarensis is probably quite a bit more uncanny valley than that.
Oh yeah,
you really got an intermediate between a chimp mug and a human mug.
Yeah.
So it's much probably a bit more if you've seen any of the actual Lucy reconstructions, they're not flattering. She's not a beauty by conventional standards.
That reminds me. Remember when I told you about the disagreement that my friend and I had as to whether human babies or gorilla babies were cuter? And it's like clearly gorilla babies are cuter, obviously.
Yeah. I'm with you. I find human babies to be, especially like newborns, a little bit repulsive. They all look like meatloafs to me.
Well, that's because they develop farther along for gorillas. They don't have to be born at such a ridiculously early stage.
I know, and then they've got the lumpy skulls because of it too. It's
yeah.
The big brain thing was a gambit, and we were not aesthetically pleasing for quite some time because of it.
Well, newborns grow out of it pretty quickly, and they do get to be cute. But I still say that baby gorillas take it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about the stethoscope one where they've got the cold stethoscope.
Oh, I know, it's adorable. So, by the way, if any of my nieces or nephews are watching this, you guys are the exception. You were way more adorable than baby gorillas. I just want to make sure that, if any of my family sees this, which some of them do watch, that cover my bases there.
Yeah, he's definitely not humoring you for sure, 100%.
No. Although, last time I was talking to them on Zoom, my niece requested to see the dinosaur avatar talk, so I opened up Things That Aren't Dinosaurs about Dimetrodon. Man, they love that.
Aw.
Yeah.
Kids are fun for short periods of time, in my opinion, except when you find really cool ones. And sometimes there are some really cool kids out there for sure.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's keep going. Next time we stop, though, I'm going to grab myself a drink and we'll play my slightly extended intermission video.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
Camera right now, that mosasaur head. So go ahead and mark that on your junior paleontology sheet as well. Now, let's keep going. And there's a bunch of other things we could talk about here, but if we have more time in the future, we can do that. Oh, we didn't finish the clownfish, did we?
Or Nemo.
Cameraman knows.
Nemo, that's another name, right? So here's another clownfish. What are we up to now? We had 7, 8. So we're at 8. And I think there's another one over here somewhere. Oh, I see it. You see it right over here?
Oh, good. We found the clownfish. That was my big concern.
There's one
I know.
of the other
I was really worried
right
you weren't going to take that to completion.
So how many
it was
is that?
nail biting.
There are 9 clownfish in our marine room. That's
it was so
cool,
concerning.
Okay, well, we're going to go out here, And we are going to
it's
about
Protostega gigas was the name of the turtle.
Here in just a second.
Okay,
So
all right. Yeah, I think someone suggested
What?
helium.
You see something? What do you see?
All right, there's a snake bit here. It's literally just another thing that counts in the museum, so I'm going to skip past it a bit. And there's the display. Allegedly, there's a snake in there. I don't see it, but the video quality is trash, so...
Yeah, that's the cameraman has not been super enthusiastic about this bit anyways, so.
Okay.
All right. So as you can see, we have a case here with a bunch of plant fossils. Did you know there are lots and lots and lots of plant fossils in the fossil record? Do you remember how many marine fossils or like seashell kinds of creatures did we say were found in the fossil record? What percentage? No, it was 95%. 95%.
Okay. This is a thing I hear from creationists a lot, that 95% of fossils are seashells or something like that. And I never see them reference it. Now, it would be completely unsurprising to me that a large majority of fossils were from marine environments, just because, well, many marine environments are conducive to the formation of fossils.
I'm thinking too that this is totally speculation. But I think what they read is that the vast majority of fossils are from marine environments, and they think, oh, that probably means seashells, when in reality it probably means a hell of a lot of microfossils, foraminiferans and things like that, diatoms and whatever, small guys. So I don't know. That's the thing is it wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if because we know the fossil record is almost entirely made up of microfossils as far as like what do we have the biggest representation of.
If you're head counting, then sure, obviously. What else would it be?
And I honestly I would wager that I'm almost certain that we have more seashell fossils than we do of like vertebrates. So, but it wouldn't surprise me if their interpretation comes from it's mostly marine, and then they're like, like shells and.
Well, one thing is, marine deposits often contain terrestrial organisms, like all the famous Archaeopteryx finds. Those were marine deposits. They were marine lagoons.
Well, because imagine that. I mean, marine environments are much more conducive to fossilization.
Exactly.
Than any kind of arid environment is.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's unexpected. It's just, if we're going to suggest that all fossils are from a global flood, then there should be no terrestrial fossils. No fossils formed in arid and terrestrial conditions.
Right.
But we find them. And they're not rare either. Yeah. They're just not as common.
Even things like fluvial or lacustrine deposits shouldn't exist. It should all be marine deposits. I mean, I make a big deal about things like, aeolian deposits or evaporites and things like that because it's so obvious that it wouldn't work with a flood. But even less obvious things like, oh, this is a lacustrine deposit. It's like, well, you don't get lakes under a global flood.
No, you don't. Yeah, probably not freshwater deposits.
Right. All right, well, that is our promised intermission. So I'm going to play a little bit of an intermission. And if Erika and Eric, if you haven't seen it, you might like it. I don't know. Just careful not to get too much audio feedback when we come back.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to see it another time because I'm going to grab some coffee.
All right.
Eric, you wanted to say something before we go. I saw you open your mouth.
Oh, sorry.
With a global flood, if there really was one, well, and then every fossil that we would find of T-Rex, all that, they would be pretty much 100% complete. We wouldn't just find just like some pieces. They all would be complete, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on the thing is that they talk out of both sides of their mouth on this one. They'll be like, look at the fact that we have all of these ridiculously well articulated, full fossil finds, and then in the same breath they'll be like, see, everything's disarticulated because the flood was just so tumultuous, so it's. I mean, they can't get their story straight with that either. Either it's calm and we get disarticulation from gentle currents, or it was ridiculously fast and everything was covered in like mud and sand slides. So, coffee. I'll be back.
All right. Okay. Here we go. I want to take a moment to talk about something serious. There is a problem facing late surviving non-avian dinosaurs in modern America. Hunting is very strictly regulated, and only allowed at certain times of the year. This means that for much of the year we have to rely on farm-raised food, which means money. If you want to help a starving dinosaur, please consider donating on Patreon, or buying from my merch store. Links are in the description. Please help. Dinosaurs all over YouTube are depending on you to help them through the hunting off-season. Oh, Nani? Dare? Oh, Ojira desu ka? Hai, Gojira-san. Hai. All right, we are back. Thank you for giving us a few minutes to refresh our drinks and do anything else we need to take care of. And yes, I did just sandwich my transitional fossil slideshow between two commercials. So, hey, you know what? I needed to get some extra time out of these breaks because what was happening was I would have to grab myself a drink and rush back, and every time I would get back late and you guys have been staring at a black screen. Whereas the two different times that I've done this, I've been back in time for either the transitional species slideshow or the Godzilla commercial at the end there. So it's better than a black screen, guys, even if I am throwing commercials at you.
Hey, commercials are the bread and butter.
I mean, yeah. If it weren't for commercials, how would people know that I have merch?
Listen, we're also making good time on this video. We're like halfway through it.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's
start. All right, here we go.
Now, we only have 100% to work with, right? So 95%, we only have 5% more to go, and we've totally filled up the fossil record. So we're already at 95%. Did you know what percentage are plants and insects and things like that? 4.99%.
Again, citation needed, dude.
I don't know where that comes from.
And
really.
And the other thing is like, okay, let's say that I found, or someone finds a T-Rex, right? It's a very unusual find if we're head counting, right?
Yeah.
Who the heck cares that there's also a billion foraminifera in some piece of chalk that your teacher has on her desk? Like, whatever. Who cares? What difference does this make? It's not.
I wonder too if they're doing this is again speculation, but I would imagine that if every single tooth that's been found was considered to be its own thing, the vertebrate number would skyrocket.
Yeah. Well, that's also the case. Yeah, are we counting every little fragment of bone or tooth? And if you guys think that the Godzilla is a bit too loud, let me know. I can tone that down. I can just edit the video a bit. But also, Ugly German Truths, I'm going to be looking at Discord, but this stream is up in Discord, so I literally can't check right now without everyone seeing my Discord DMs. So, sorry, but unless we want to put everyone who's ever Discord messaged me on, like, display, it's going to have to wait until at least after the stream. Sorry about that, buddy.
Okay.
That only leaves 0.01% left that we haven't even gotten to yet. So right now we are on some of these plant fossils. You can see some amber right here. Amber is fossilized tree resin, and it takes the perfect conditions. It takes absolutely perfect conditions.
You mean it has to dry?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. What's perfect conditions? It's not rainy, like.
Which, by the way, is the perfect conditions that a flood would not provide you in the least.
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. No, hey, this is on those floating forests.
Oh, all those floating floors that apparently sank at very different times, so that we can get amber from different times.
It was really dry on those forests, but not too dry.
They were floating.
During a global flood.
Oh, and look, it is a lycopod.
Aww.
Look, there's a lycopod right there. So if you hit 1 in the chat, let's just go ahead and assume that you were correct.
Good job, ladies and gents.
To be able to harden tree resin. And what's really interesting is there are insects in a lot of that tree resin that's hardened into amber. And so it's something that has to happen quickly to preserve these things. And they found all sorts of interesting things. But what about some of these other things? We've got leaf impression. Will you get...
That cut wasn't mine, by the way. That was in the original.
There's a lot of wood that's partially hardened, so it's partially petrified. It's partially...
I want to know how badly they compressed this thing before they uploaded it to YouTube, because you see how many horrible compression artifacts there just were?
I feel like almost certainly our lead boy here called his grandson and was like, "Can you help Grandpops like upload this to YouTube?" And he was like, "Oh God!" And he just really half-assed the entire thing.
Probably
put it in a break or something for the frame rate.
Do you want to know what the original resolution on this one was?
Probably 6 pixels.
It was a 480 video when I downloaded it. Yeah.
Oh, that
I actually upped the resolution just so the $sign wouldn't look like crap. I doubled the resolution just so that my $sign wouldn't just be a pixely mess.
They really shelled out. This was probably done on like the Movavi app.
All right, so Josiah Hansen for $2 says, "Make worse time on the video. I'm at work and enjoying it." Well, all right, put on the brakes, guys.
Yeah, we can stop and blather and facepalm more.
Coalified, so some of it's hardened like petrified wood, and then it's coalified, and then there's a log that we have.
Geology, snafu here on my end. Is coalified a word that I should add to my vocabulary? Is that real?
So, okay, there's 2 things. 1, I haven't heard anyone who isn't a creationist use it, but 2, I also am not up on my coal formation geology and whatnot, so I don't actually know.
It looks like it is a word, and the also a word is coalification, which I really like.
Well, that's a good word.
I was because I heard him say that, and I was like, that's pretty gutsy if that's just straight up fake. So I was like, huh, maybe I just am ignorant to that, and it turns out I am. So now we can add that to the.
Well, there you go. Erika just learned something else today.
I know this is if we cap 5 learning new things in a creationist video, I'll go break open the wine.
Ooh. All right. Well, we have to start hunting for things that we're learning.
I know, true.
Because you know what? Erika's fun to drink with.
I'm fun to drink with, but again, it's because I get me.
Well, actually, to be honest, I did add about a half a finger of rum to this, which isn't actually enough to do anything, but it makes the Coke taste just a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, plus, there's purpose to taking sips now. Something stupid is said, and you can just... I mean, it's all just a reflex. You grab for the... You're like, I don't even know what to say for that.
The amount of alcohol that's in this is going to be completely negligible. I mean, it's like adding a dash of bitters to a bottle of or a glass of Coke. It's like it's not going to do anything. You're not going to notice that.
Yeah, true that. Hold on, I'm trying to be involved in chat too.
Oh, well, you're doing better than I am. I just look over it and say things.
Petrified, part of it's petrified, part of it's coalified, and part of it is still wood. Okay, here we go. A lot of people lost it. Okay, we apologize for that. We had lost our wireless connection. We'll back up that way, and maybe you'll get a little bit better signal. I don't know.
Thanks,
apologize
Grandpa.
For that. This is a big building, and we try to have wireless coverage wherever we go, but we don't always have it perfectly. So there's a lot of really neat plant fossils in the fossil record. Now, we want to go over here to our tooth display.
Oh, we're getting teeth, Erika.
I'm ready.
So you can stand up there. And I'm going to go back in the back room, and I have to grab something. And why don't you...
Oh, Eric, you're breaking up. I don't know if you're too far away from your mic or what.
Yeah, that's probably why. Might need to get...
Match up.
Can you hear me now?
Why don't you push
Yes.
some of those buttons and show which ones they are and talk about it too, okay? Talk about which ones they are. And talk about and count how many there are on here as well, because that's a question on your sheet.
So there's one right there. That's the human tooth.
I guess there's a molar in there. It's so tiny and washed out.
Yeah, our teeth are pathetic.
There's a shark tooth. 2.
A horribly inaccurate T-Rex.
Here's a...
True.
Creationists are stuck in the early 80s when it comes to paleontology. I mean, look at the Spinosaurus.
Oh yeah. Also, I've said this before. I have a very soft spot in my heart for bad paleo art, and that includes pretty much everything from the 80s. So I specifically love when we have like the theropods with the tail that's just straight up dragging along the ground.
Yeah. Well, actually, so I judge paleo art on 2 different and mostly independent like axes. One is accuracy, and the other one is like aesthetics. Like, how is this as a piece of art? And as a piece of art, a lot of really old paleo art is excellent art.
Oh, yes.
It's a very poor representation of the animals.
Yeah, it's the kind of art that I genuinely just want to put up in my house. Like, I see some old paleo art, and it's like the classic black and white of like the first iguanodons, and they're very carnivorous looking, and they're just struggling for existence, and there's some big sea serpent in the background, and I'm like, man, I would frame that.
Just about anything by Charles Knight, I would hang up.
True.
Spinosaurus, wasn't it discovered recently like that its tail was more fin-like?
Yeah, so Spinosaurus has a weird sort of newt-looking tail, apparently, as a new...
Is it not a subspecies? Is it a specific species of the genera, or is it like classic Spinosaurus, it turns out has a paddle-like tail?
So, if I remember correctly, the specimen was given the designation, I believe it was Spinosaurus moroccoensis, which is not Spinosaurus aegypticus. But then again, I don't know on what basis the determination that a new species is warranted was made. And so, and then of course, it's such an unusual feature that it seems a bit far-fetched that another species in the same genus would be radically different on that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I know for quite some time that some of the like caudal vertebra that we had from Spinosaurus was suggesting that there might have been an aquatic, portion of its life hanging out near on coastlines and stuff like that, but that it was still relatively up for grabs. But as far as I know, this most recent find is like, holy cow, this is a giant paddle tail. Like,
yeah, there have still been some suggestions that maybe that's not the only interpretation, but I would say this. Until we have something that disconfirms it, I think that the use of that tail in aquatic locomotion is by far the most parsimonious explanation as to the structure. So, yeah.
It's very indicative. This is a novice. I'm a primate person, so redundancy. But reptiles aren't really my forte. But to my knowledge, I mean, the whole point of crocodilians, at least extant crocodilians that we have today, is that they're aquatic ambush predators. So it's not that they live their whole lives in the water, it's just those big paddle-like tails that are so powerful are used for big ambush attacks.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if Spinosaurus was, kind of in the same vein, that it's like, yeah, it does all its hunting in the water. And plus it's got that classic, like, almost needle-nose snout.
Yeah.
That screams fish predator.
Well, even the people who are saying that perhaps the tail is not an adaptation to swimming, they're still usually in the camp that it was doing things like hunting more like a heron. So it's standing in the shallows and snatching fish out of the water rather than, submerging itself and grabbing fish in the water column. Yeah. So I don't know of anyone really challenging the idea that Spinosaurids were primarily piscivores. Like, that's... I've never encountered anyone saying other than that, because they look like they have gharial snouts, basically.
Well, and that's the thing, because with a gharial, you've got almost an ambush style as well, at least when it's going after anything terrestrial. But then as a fisherman, it's hanging out like in the in like rapid areas with gaping, and. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, again, this is not my forte, but it's certainly very interesting. I saw that and I was like, man, that it seems like it seals the deal on the habitat and hunting behavior.
It does. There is still some pushback, but like I said, the people who are against the aquatic nature of Spinosaurus are currently on the back foot by a lot.
Yeah, checks out.
I'm sorry, Eric. What were you going to say?
But yeah, and that was one of the reasons why that fight in Jurassic Park 3 drove me so nuts. It was because the fact that, the T-Rex bit it first on its neck, and Spinosaurus was built for eating fish.
Mm.
Yeah, and there is no way that Spinosaurus would have won.
Yeah, Spinosaurus. So one thing is, okay, people always ask, and they even ask me like, "Oh, who would win in a fight?" And I was like, I neither know nor care in most cases. But if you want me to just give you an answer, then it's the one that's heavier.
Yeah, or has the thicker neck with the masseter.
Right, there's a few, but basically, unless they're both submerged in a tank, Spinosaurus is going to not win to T-Rex. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if you put them both in a giant aquarium tank used to house big sharks or something, then yes, Spinosaurus might win that one. But if they're both on land, no, T-Rex is just going to win because it has a much higher bite force. It has much bigger teeth. It's just going to win.
Poor drowning T-Rex. That's so sad.
Well, no, T-Rex is Leviathan. It can breathe fire and it lives underwater. Just ask Kent Hovind.
Hey, no, that's Parasaurolophus.
No. They can both breathe fire. Just ask Kent Hovind.
Ooh, is that what he's saying?
Well, I know he has pushed the Parasaurolophus can breathe fire thing in the past, but more recently he's been saying the T-Rex could do the same thing and that it lived in the water.
Is it possible that he's losing information at this point?
I mean, he's been eating cyanide.
Oh god, he's hemorrhaging.
Basically, he probably has some kind of slow leak of blood into his brain right now.
Okay.
He's undergoing a slow cranial hemorrhage.
Kent. That is a case study in ignorance.
Mm-hmm. Are we ready?
But yeah, and Leviathan's said to have multiple heads, and I've seen no Tyrannosaurus specimen or Parasaurolophus specimen that has more than one head.
So far.
Yeah, far.
Yeah, you just wait. We'll find the two-headed T-Rex, I promise. And if we don't, it's just because we didn't wait long enough.
Two-headed T-Rex sounds very similar to the Sci-Fi Channel's hit TV movie Two-Headed Shark Attack.
Oh my goodness!
Peace.
Yeah, the less said about sci-fi originals, the better at this point. I refuse to call them sci-fi because that's not what those letters spell.
Yep. Linguist.
Ankylosaurus. Yeah. So how many are there on here total?
11.
There's 11 buttons on our tooth display, and if you ever come to the museum, you can kind of finish this up and you can punch some of these buttons and watch some of the...
Eric, you guys noticed that the the tagline on that near all the buttons is just straight up clickbait?
No, what is it?
Which tooth belongs to who? The answer may surprise you.
Awesome. It should add at the end 100% not button clickbait.
Yeah, 100% not button clickbait. Hot singles near you.
It's because it has sort of pee.
Also, I gotta say, while the video quality is pretty low, all the teeth I can make out clearly, I'm pretty confident I know what they were. Like, I noticed the mosasaur tooth, the T-Rex tooth. If I could have seen the human tooth before we clicked on it, I'm pretty sure I would have recognized that. Like, none of these are exactly mysterious teeth.
Yeah. Well, maybe if you're, a dollar boy baby.
Well, okay, yeah, that's fair. I guess this isn't directed at me, is it?
Yeah.
I'm not the target audience.
Not everyone is up to your level of like dental identification.
Which is not that extreme, by the way.
Mine's not great either. Actually, I can do hominids okay. I can do them okay, but
that's good.
Nothing else.
Different things that are on here and try to match them up. It's kind of a game we have set up. So go ahead and come down here and let's talk about a couple things when it comes to teeth. And this is one of those things that I think is pretty challenging, really, when it comes to discussing the biblical account. Because in the fossil record, we find a lot of death. They're all dead, right? All the creatures are dead. And we found a live dinosaur. Is a big enough dinosaur? No, not at all. So we find a lot of death, a lot of violence. There's things eating other things and biting other things. And
while drowning.
Yeah, while drowning.
Okay, got it.
There's a lot of disease. Did you know we find disease in the fossil record as well? And so we know that when God created everything, he originally created it perfect. And the Bible tells us something that's very interesting.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric.
The Bible does not say that it was perfect at all.
I believe it says it was very good, which is not the same word.
Yeah.
Which, as far as
there's liberties, artistic liberties.
Now, to be fair, I don't know how to form the superlative in Hebrew, but I do know that it's very easy to form and contrast the comparative and the superlative in Arabic, which is a relatively closely related language, to the point that most words are direct cognates in both languages. So I do know that at least some of related languages have no trouble distinguishing between the superlative and the comparative. So if it had said the most good or something like that, maybe, but it doesn't seem like it says that. Now,
it's more like, it was
Well, I think it was more than that. I mean, it seems like the idea was supposed to be that it was, in fact, great. It was awesome. But then again, if it was perfect, then why is there a talking trickster snake in the garden? That doesn't seem entirely perfect to me.
Yeah, and if it really was perfect, well, then Adam wouldn't have sinned in the first place.
Right, exactly. It's there's a reason that it says very good, and that's a better hermeneutic to take if you're going to take the story as a serious thing, either just for its sort of like content as far as like what it can teach you about the world and the nature of humans in it and, things like that, or if you're going to take it even as a literal history. Either way, it doesn't say it's perfect, and it doesn't say that for good reason. But
Step 1, create a curious hominid. Step 2, put temptations in the garden. Step 3, Step 4, profit?
Well, apparently not.
Yeah. Maybe for the
When God
snake.
created everything originally, what did he create everything to eat? What was everything eating right at the very beginning?
Meat.
Yes! Yes! I love this kid. He's just like, I'm not playing your games, old man.
I'm not playing pseudoscience. But that was just a command to Adam and Eve.
Yeah, it's... You have to read a lot into the text if you want to get to this nothing ate meat thing.
Yeah, explain that to my piercing and shearing canines. I'm ready.
No, what kind of things did God design everything to eat?
This guy is clearly frustrated, and he's trying not to make it too obvious.
To eat vegetables. Yeah, that's
Come
a
on,
hard one because a
get your
lot
crap
of
together.
when we look around us today, we see a lot of things eating meat, but God originally made it to eat vegetables, right? So when you look at T-Rex and you look at all the animals today with crazy teeth and everything, it's really hard to believe that these things were all made to eat vegetables.
Because they weren't. Okay, got it.
When you look at an animal's teeth, now you just tell me what you think, okay? When you look at an animal's teeth, can you tell by simply looking at its teeth what it was designed to eat? No, you can't? Okay. You know, a lot of people actually say yes to that question.
I love it. Even when the kid gives the answer that this guy thinks is the right answer, it's still not the question he wanted, the answer that he wanted the kid to give.
This youngster cannot win.
Actually, I think he is winning. I think that might be what's going on. I think he might be like, you know what? I'm just gonna give the answer he doesn't want. I think he might actually be trolling this guy.
He is so rebellious.
Because this kid his answers are by far the best thing in this, because he's always given the answer that this guy doesn't want.
Yeah, he goes home and talks on his buddies on the Minecraft server, and they're like, "Dude, you seriously buy this?" And he's like, "Wait, what?" And comes back, "Ooh, he's prepared."
I think that if you look at teeth and they look ferocious, you think you can figure out. But you've been part of my tours enough, and you've been in this museum enough.
Ah, yes, the rigorous peer-reviewed method of looks ferocious.
Yeah.
That's
what, you know, PhD students spend, you know, half a decade studying, is how to eyeball things.
Oh, it's not eyeball. We've developed the objective ferociousness scale, Erika.
Of course, copyright and patented.
Goodness, I just saw that. How ferocious does it look? I don't know. Goodness.
No, that looks to be like about a 6.5 on the ferocity.
So let's look at some creatures today and kind of see if we can tell what these things were designed to eat. So here, why don't you just stay back there, because I think you'll have better signal, and I'll bring them to you.
I mean, he's probably right.
So here...
Okay, hold on.
Look at this creature. Come on over here,
Let's see if we can get a good shot.
Look at this creature.
All right. Now, I have seen this, so I can't really say, but I want to get impressions from the rest of the panel, and maybe even the chat. What are we thinking?
For this little animal here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like we've got orbits kind of angled to the front, but if I know these guys, there's almost always going to be a finger point at I think it's the Chinese fanged deer, canine deer, or whatever, that ungulate that has the males have those tusk-like structures.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't see the bottom mandible. I don't think that it's like a tusk thing going on. I think that they're clearly canines. Okay, Chinese tusk deer, whatever. That's my guess. I can't see it super well.
Say what? Sorry?
What are you thinking of for the skull?
But yeah, it looks like molars in the back, which is a huge problem. You know, for it, you know, for the whole argument that, oh, just because it ate teeth, it doesn't.
Sorry.
Sorry. Just because it has sharp teeth, it doesn't mean that like that it only ate plants, but sorry, only meat. Sorry, I'm sorry, my words today. And so, okay, so say for a creature like this, say if this only ate plants, there would be no way that it could survive, like, with the sharp, like with all sharp teeth.
Yeah, it couldn't process those plants.
Right, it would have to have molars too. But do you see molars? No.
Well,
so if that are the case, I mean, if it were to survive, it would have to be like the saber-tooth skull right behind Erika.
Yeah, my molared saber-tooth skull, in case anybody's wondering.
So one thing I think I would like to do is I'm going to see if we can pull up the skull, because this is clearly a rather poor quality image, if you will. So I'm going to pull up a better quality image of the same skull, hopefully without a label on it, so we can get a good look at it. And I'm going to tell you the things that I notice about it. So you might have to check the live feed.
Yeah,
so,
I'm in the live, but I think it's going slow. Oh, we got someone in the chat who's supporting me with the Chinese tusked deer.
Okay. So, first thing I notice is that there are a fair few incisors which are pretty far forward and relatively flat. The next thing I notice is, and these are actually things I noticed before I found out exactly what the answer is. The next thing I notice is that there's a pretty big gap between them and the premolars and molars, and that the molars occlude together, top to bottom, but not like the inside of, say, the bottom molars occluding against the outside of the top molars, which is what you would expect in carnassials. So that initially led me to think pretty heavily that this is probably an herbivore.
So let me ask, is this I'm looking at it from kind of my angle over here, but is there a lack of incisors on the top? Are we dealing with a dental pad?
It looks like it might be a dental pad. I don't see any incisors on top.
Okay, baby, this is that Chinese tusked deer. I'm ready.
Okay, but that means, though, that we can... So, yes or no, can we tell what this thing eats by looking at its skull and its teeth?
Oh, we can tell 100%. I would like to make a point in a moment, as those of you who follow me even a bit decently know that I like to pull out this rhesus macaque skull that I keep on my shelf back here. Which, okay, whatever. I don't know that anybody can see this. My face is pretty small on the actual video. But this is a male rhesus macaque that I have right here. If anybody can, let's see. I'll put it to the side. Anyways, you'll notice it's got massive canines, right? Most old world monkeys present pretty large canines, particularly the males. And wouldn't you know it, it's for intrasexual competition. So I wonder if this is indeed a Chinese tusked deer.
Given that only the males have the tusks?
Yeah, is this perhaps a male Chinese tusked deer?
Well, let's find out.
What in the world is that thing, first of all? You probably have no idea. You know what it is, but... well, oh, you don't remember what it is?
Again, okay. Gives the answer the guy doesn't want. I love it.
That kind of look like...
we got saber-tooth horse as an option. I like it, Tesla Ranger.
Then you got these really crazy-looking teeth up here, right? Look at those. They're kind of like tusks.
Maybe it's a foreshadowing.
Now, this one's kind of easy.
A foreshadowing of what? Sorry.
Maybe it's a foreshadowing of what's about to come on later in life, like that kid.
Oh, well, he's gonna get attacked by one of these guys?
No. It was the fact, like, he's giving him answers that he doesn't want.
Oh, yeah. I think this kid probably isn't long for Earth creationism.
Probably not.
If you were to say, what was this designed to eat? You look at these teeth back here, and it's probably vegetables, right? Probably plants, because it looks like deer teeth. And that's...
Oh, you look at the teeth that are most important for food processing, and you think maybe it's going to eat plants. It's almost like even he thinks that the ferociousness scale is complete nonsense.
Yeah, we're dealing with a low end ferociousness scale. Plus, it's quite small. I mean, you wouldn't want to get those tusks in you, but it probably wouldn't kill you.
There are small carnivores, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to square off with the Chinese tusked deer because I got these dexterous hands. I'm ready to grab a rock. Yeah,
I was gonna say, why would you use your hands? Just throw something at it.
Yeah, for grabbing and throwing.
Yeah, okay, good, because when it comes to combat, humans basically win at throwing and nothing else.
Yeah, throwing and fashioning sharp things.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. This is a Chinese water deer.
Oh!
If you don't know what a Chinese water deer looks like with its skin on, you can look that up and with your parents.
It looks like a tiny deer with tusks. We got it. Okay. if you want to Google it, guys, go Google it, but only with your parents' permission.
Permission,
Yeah,
and
make sure
see
a
if you can
parent is
figure out
present.
what that thing looks like.
Oh, I should call my mom and see if she'll give me permission to look up a Chinese water deer.
I don't want to accidentally stumble onto something scantily clad.
Yeah, you think I should call my mom and see if I have permission to look up a Chinese water deer?
Yeah, make sure.
All right, I'm gonna go get my phone. We'll see what happens.
Wait.
All right, give me a second. I'll be right back.
Wait,
Oh my god, he's actually doing it. That's pretty funny.
he's actually gonna. I thought that he was just kidding.
I did too. I hope she picks up Mama Dapper.
So funny if she actually does pick up.
That would be very funny. My mom's not even home. I should have asked her before I got on here. God, I'm really risking it. I hope I don't run into anything, pornographic.
Right.
Okay, I'm calling right now.
If I were to call my mom, she would look at me as if I was on drugs if I asked her that question.
My mom is used to a certain level of tomfoolery, but yeah, she would be like, "Why are you asking me this? Leave me alone."
Hello? Is anyone there? Stop ringing. Oh, you are there?
Put her on speaker.
Sorry. All right, so I'm going to put you on speakerphone for a second. You're going to be on with my 60 or so viewers and my co-panel because we have an important question for you. Okay, give me a second.
He actually did it.
Okay, I'm going to make sure you're turned up. Okay, say hello.
Hello.
Hi, Mom.
Oh.
What's up?
So we have an important question. I was just told by the guy in the video that we're watching that if I wanted to know what a Chinese water deer looked like in life with its skin on as opposed to just a skull, I should ask for my parents' permission. Can I look up a Chinese water deer, Mom?
You sure can. You are of age to do whatever you want to do.
Normally I would agree with you, but the guy said that I needed your permission.
What do you have my permission?
Thank you very much, Mom. I love you.
I love you. Bye.
Bye. Oh, my mom's a good sport.
He's about to text you and be like, "Never do that to me."
I know, right? Okay, well, so now that I have permission, we're gonna check Chinese water deer.
Thank God you got permission. Oh God.
Yeah, I know that it could have been grim.
We could have gotten to some dangerous territory there.
Okay, here we go. Chinese water deer. There it is, everybody. Yeah, it looks like a deer with tusks. Okay.
Fabulous.
And there was nothing scantily clad except for the deer.
Yeah, I guess that they do qualify.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks to my mom, and it was cute. And I didn't forget Mother's Day this year. Actually, I don't think I've ever forgotten Mother's Day, but I thought I did because I looked at the date like last month, and I was like, "Wait, is it this month?" And it was on the day of the month, and I was like, "Oh no, have I completely forgotten it?" And then I looked again, I was like, "Oh no, it's next month." Okay, I didn't miss Mother's Day.
Forgetting Mother's Day is a cardinal sin.
Exactly.
Make it my business to not forget Mother's Day, lest I incur her wrath.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, with much thanks to my mom, we'll see what else this guy has for us.
So it's pretty crazy. It looks just like a deer, except it has these big old teeth or tusks or whatever they are right in front. Makes it look kind of scary, like a vampire deer. Oh, right? Pretty crazy stuff. So let's look at another one.
He's out of control.
Okay,
Vampire deer.
Put him in a institution.
Now, let me ask you this. Look at that. It's a smaller skull, but look at those teeth.
It's a smaller skull, but it still checks out.
Yeah.
All right, which actually I do have the an image for this. So give me a second, so that way we can get a nice big old picture of this skull that he's showing us. So
yeah, this mini one is like 8 pixels on my screen.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's why I've looked up some of these things beforehand, so that way we don't have to deal with this dude's ridiculously tiny skulls. All right. So what are we thinking as far as diet goes?
I can't see it yet. But I am waiting to see it. I'm excited.
Oh,
ooh, I see it. Okay, thick canines, probably big root. We've got shearing carnicels. We've got molars that are reduced in the back. What is the is that like a reduced premolar, like behind the bottom canine?
I'm actually not sure what that is. I think it might be. It's probably not a second canine because we've got a mammal and we're well past that.
I'm thinking it's almost got to be a reduced premolar because most mammals that are not derived primates, I think, usually have like a 3-1-3-3 like dental formula. I mean, and it's not I don't think it's a feline. Almost certainly not. So it would still have quite a few teeth. It's a pretty small skull. I might go with like pine marten, maybe?
Okay. What about the incisors?
No, they're quite blocky, but they're small.
And the molars, they look like carnassals?
No, those are not our shearing. Well, the ones in the back are a bit grindy, but we've got quite blade-like premolars.
All right. So, what are you thinking? Primarily meat, primarily plants.
I am going to say meat eating mainly, but we might be dealing with an omnivore.
All right.
Because it looks like we've got a shearing complex too. If you look, for those of you watching out where you are in cyberspace, up on that upper canine, you've got an area where the bottom canine shears up against it, which keeps the canine sharp. And so I would say that whatever this is, we've certainly got an element of carnivory to it.
Okay. We've also got some insectivore things in the we got an insectivore, we got omnivore, we've got skunk. Let's see. So, Eric, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking probably I'm thinking probably the same thing that Erika said.
Okay. Well, I will say that when the answer comes, there is some interesting stuff to discuss about the skull and why there is some disagreement about this one.
Okay, yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Let's get to reveal.
Can you see those? Those are ferocious. If you were just going to look at those teeth, what would you say this creature?
Actually, I think the thing that I just showed you is the exact skull replica he's holding.
Creature's designed to eat. Yeah, you would think meat. I mean, look at that. Look at those teeth.
Maybe not.
But
those
do you know what
bigger.
this creature is? This is a fruit bat.
So we got a fruit bat.
Bat. Hey, yeah, I would not have guessed that.
So that's one of the things about bats is they have weird skulls, and it's hard to identify them as bat skulls just looking at them in isolation when they're megacoropterans, because megacoropterans have fairly basal mammal skulls. Microcoropterans have weird smushed face skulls, but
their sinuses are very weird. If I remember correctly, it's for like echolocation purposes. But,
yeah. One of the things about this is we get a few things. One is frugivory is a very specialized set of herbivory, and one of the things is you actually need some slicing teeth to get through a lot of fruit, right? Because a lot of fruit has a tough rind and then relatively soft flesh.
Right.
So you do need some of that slicing, and then you still need the grinding to help process. But another thing is that there was an interesting thing with insectivore. And one of the things is that insectivory is the primitive condition for bats.
Yeah, I buy that entirely, particularly because bats are thought to have evolved from sort of like a proto-glider, right? So with that in mind, we're dealing with an animal that was probably Cretaceous-y in nature as far as where it's positioned. So it's going to have to be quite small, and it's going to have to be really, really hitting it up on those insects, and likely nocturnal. Yeah. That kind of checks out.
Well, speaking of when bats almost certainly evolved, so the earliest bat fossils we have are from fairly early in the tertiary. But if you look, which means it had to have existed before that, and if you look at molecular clocks, they're usually pegged as coming out sometime in the late Cretaceous from other mammals. So there was a time when there were 3 distinct flying tetrapods around, where pterosaurs, birds, and bats were all flying around the skies of Earth, which is a little wild.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that too is that the mammals were relegated to being, night dwellers,
which they never really gave up in terms of flying mammals.
Yeah, why would they? The birds had already radiated out and taken control.
Yep. And German Furman points out that, yeah, it's flesh, it's just not animal flesh. And yeah, you need a lot of the similar tools to eat fruit that you do for or animal flesh. But one of the things that's interesting there is that the fruit bat gives up its full row of carnassials to get some nice grindy molars in the back so that it can help process that cellulose-ridden plant matter before it passes it on to its gut.
The thing is, though, about those back molars is that while they're rounded, they look a bit reduced to me.
They probably are.
You know, and I wonder if that has anything to do with just the size of the jaw.
Yeah.
You know, so like, because if you're going to go for bigger or more specialized, you're probably going to specialize before you increase in size if you've got limited space.
Yeah. All right.
What does a fruit bat eat?
Fruit.
That's exactly right. It's right in the name.
Oh,
right?
he got one. He got one. Good job.
A fruit bat eats fruit. So it uses those teeth to munch on fruit. But when we look at it, we look at it and think, oh man, that's got to be something that eats meat. But it doesn't. So even today, we can't necessarily tell what something was designed to eat just from its teeth.
Is this an even smaller skull that I forgot about?
Our experience tells us that for
it's his laser pointer.
Or for meat, and that is the way things operate today. But when did animals start eating meat? Do you know? Right after sin, I think everything started to change, and now
he's bored.
Even the animal kingdom, when it was cursed by God, animals.
Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
I said that. Well, the kid's right. It's because that the Bible does not say that. Like that meaty meat came after sin. So.
And it would have been a pretty big change. You think it would have gotten a mention?
Yeah, you certainly think.
Begin to eat other animals, and things begin to change. And even within the kinds that God created, He made certain things that have enough in them to be able to change, and to where their teeth maybe even changed and became meat eaters.
So wait, their teeth did have to change to become meat eaters? See, this guy is all over the place. He can't even be internally consistent.
So too, I think that this is a good opportunity to like quickly point out for those of you watching who might just be interested in dentition and teeth in general, heterodontia is pretty much one of the hallmarks of most mammals except cetaceans, and then they had it and then they lost it if Ohio has anything to look off of. But for strict carnivores, for like obligate carnivores that are reptilian in nature, you'll notice none of them have any molars, which is essentially required for any kind of herbivorous diet. Like, it's totally cool if you have big ass canines, right? Like, think of a lowland gorilla; their canines are quite large, and in males especially, but also in the females. But the purposes of the canines, other than shearing grasses, would be completely lost on them if they had no molars. There's no use in shearing a grass, any kinds of sedge or anything like that, if you can't then grind it up to swallow it.
Right, you're just going to get indigestible piles of grass sitting in your gut.
So it's sort of this thing where it's like, if you have canines, you might not necessarily be an obligate carnivore, but if you are an obligate carnivore, you almost certainly will have some type of canine going on, unless you're working with if you're mammal, basically, or a classic reptile that's not like beaked or something.
Although, if you want to see some heterodont dentition in a reptile, Erika, check out Heterodontosaurids.
Yes, fair enough, but that's derived.
It's extremely derived.
So the idea being that it's like, if we're looking at just like the baseline, what trends can we see here?
Right.
It's
among dinosaurs, T-Rex is considered to have an unusual amount of heterodont dentition. And you look at a T-Rex and you wouldn't think that, and it's actually extremely subtle. But for a dinosaur, it's very unusual.
Yeah, I totally buy that. I have not been close enough up to a Tyrannosaur skull to kind of like get the gist of it. Well, I mean, I'm used to looking at like hominids and primates, and our mouths are like Swiss Army knives. Like, we've got a tooth for everything.
And thank goodness, because that is a big help in the whole spreading around the world and, being able to eat just about anything.
Oh yeah, us and raccoons are like the garbage cans of eating. We'll just eat whatever. If we can digest it and not die, there's someone somewhere eating it.
Which, by the way, just because you can chew it up and eat it, or stew it or something, doesn't mean you should. Check to see if what you're about to eat or drink is poisonous before you do it.
That's smart.
Yes.
That is definitely smart.
Especially if you just found it in nature.
Yeah, nature.
Or someone's hedge.
Or someone's hedge.
That also check and make sure if it's fully cooked too.
That can also help, yes. So yeah. I'm just saying, don't eat unidentified organisms.
Yeah, our guts aren't what they used to be. Our most distant ancestors, they had a little bit better digestion for things that were raw than we do now. So just be careful. You'll probably be fine. Salmonella is not likely going to kill you. You'd probably still be fine, but yeah, cook your chicken. Steaks, don't overcook your steaks.
No.
Let's exception to the rule.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about steak is that salmonella has trouble penetrating into the actual muscles, but for some reason with poultry, salmonella will grow just about anywhere.
I wonder if it has to do with like how it striates.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well.
Here we go.
Let's proceed.
I mean, it shows what I know too.
Or maybe those teeth were originally designed to eat something else. I think of T-Rex's teeth. So turn around here and just look up at T-Rex really quick. Look at T-Rex's teeth.
I can't.
Now,
I literally can't.
From here, but you guys have probably seen
We're getting
T-Rex
the butt
tooth
end
and
view of
know what it looks like. Now maybe let's come over here and see if we can get close to the tooth.
It's not even a T-Rex.
And let's look at the T-Rex tooth.
Yeah, that didn't look like a T-Rex to me either.
That's an Acrocanthosaurus.
Okay. I couldn't tell from that angle, but you've been there, so I'm sure you recognize that mount, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, damn, I was like, okay, I did not know that.
I mean, actually, now that I'm looking at it on the live feed, I can see those neural arches that I wasn't really looking at because I was focused on trying to see teeth. But yeah, no, that's definitely not a T-Rex. Oh well.
This is a T-Rex tooth right here.
Do they have a T-Rex, Eric?
Yes.
So
okay.
You can see that.
Okay.
Now, T-Rex teeth are pretty ferocious. So
it's at least a 9 on the ferocity
scale. When you begin to think about that, we want to automatically say, well, it was designed to eat meat, but not necessarily. Teeth, as we found with the fruit bat, can be used for many different things.
It's pretty ferocious to me.
Sin changed everything. And then as we got closer and closer to the flood,
what never happened.
So here's one of those things, right? This is a testable hypothesis. Could a T-Rex jaw effectively process any plant matter that you care to feed to such an animal, right? All you need to do is make a T-Rex jaw model. Doesn't even have to be full size, it can be to scale, right? Articulate it with some kind of automatic system, like some piston-driven thing, right? At approximately the right bite force for that scale. And then just see to what degree it can process plants. And then you look at animals that are just obligate herbivores, but that are fairly bad at it, like pandas. Can T-Rex use those teeth to process plant matter to at least the point where a panda could digest it?
Well, and the thing is, people have done this before. Like that experiment has been directly done with various primates to see whether or not certain extinct primates, old world monkeys, all the way up to the hominids, what food they were most likely to be efficient at eating, given their paleo environment, and depending on the teeth of the specimens that we have. And it works really well. So, creationists out there, this is great. This is a great experiment to run. You can get, from like dental schools and stuff like that, some pretty cool jaw models for human teeth if you were wanting to do it with that. I'm sure you could retrofit it with the T-Rex.
Heck, 3D print a T-Rex jaw. There are accurate 3D models of T-Rexes out there. Download one, 3D print it. I'm sure there's a creationist out there with a really nice 3D printer.
There's gotta be.
Download the STL file.
Yeah, there has got to be a creation. I mean, they're really big on like using new technology to do things.
Oh, there we go. See, there's a model T-Rex skull. Get one of those and let me know what it can chew effectively. Publish your results. Now, do publish them even if they don't seem to support the hypothesis that T-Rex could effectively process any plant material.
Toss bushels upon bushels of bananas into that mouth.
but wild bananas. We can't do this modern derived human bananas because those weren't around at the time of the flood.
Hey, but don't you know they fit in your hand? They have a tab just like a Coke can.
Oh goodness, thanks, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? It says that there began to be more and more violence on the earth before God chose to judge the earth.
Yeah, but it's talking specifically about human society. God didn't judge the earth because the cheetahs were eating too many impalas. Like,
that's the thing that really gets me, right? And like, you sure would think, I had this conversation with the Creationists at one point. I was like, you sure would think that we'd find some because as he said earlier, before their teeth became more adapted to meat eating. So we should find some T-Rex.
Who cares? Do whatever you want.
Find some theropods with, I don't know, any flat tooth in its jaw, or a flat toothed felid, or a flat.
We do find some flat-toothed theropods, but they also usually have things like nipping beaks and highly derived torsos that allow for an extension of the gut.
Right. We need an organism that, for all intents and purposes, looks like it should be carnivorous except for the teeth, right? Which is very difficult to do because we can't access the guts of any of these animals.
Yeah.
And the guts tell the huge story.
Sorry, Erika, you're cutting in and out a little bit still. I'm not sure if it's just the microphone sensitivity or what.
Wait, me?
No, Eric. I'm doing it. That's the thing I said I was going to do last time, but I didn't, but now I'm doing it.
Oh, okay. I was doing okay.
Okay, well, what I said is, on top of finding what Erika just said, we also would have to find all of them dated in the same layer 6,000 years ago.
You know what? We would have to, but I would just be happy if you just showed up with something that's like, oh, hey, look, I found a blunt-toothed Tyrannosaurus. Oh, I don't care where you found it. That would, in and of itself, be an interesting little prediction. I agree with you, Eric. Really, you should find this in a consistent spot in the fossil record. But you know what? Creationism is so pathetic at this point, I'll take anything.
Yeah, you would need it to basically predate any kind of carnivorous theropod first. And therefore you're going to be finding it in the same layer as like Tiktaalik, right? Like,
well, I mean,
nice.
Maybe like mid-Triassic. We can go for mid-Triassic.
You're gonna give them that? Okay.
I mean, hey, when did dinosaurs diverge from the rest of Archosauria? About the mid-Triassic.
Hold on, let me.
So,
Icarus in the chat says, random question, how many years was pre-fall supposed to last? How long did they live in the garden before the snake showed up?
The Bible does not.
It doesn't say, no.
So pre-fall is completely unknown. We know that there's a span between when human history kind of spurs off, which is the 6,000 years ago is what they say, even though we've got like Göbekli Tepe, which is like quite a bit older. But you're looking at like 2,000-ish years between the fall and the flood. So you're working with a small time frame there, and then you're also working with a small time frame from flood to now for any kind of weirdo adaptation.
Yeah, I think the only clue we really have is that a genealogy in Genesis reports the age of Adam when Seth is born.
Right, but does that?
Well, the thing is, that gives us a maximum time, because we know that Seth was born after Cain killed Abel, and that Cain and Abel were both born after the expulsion.
Right, but the thing is that the pre-fall time would be prior to consuming the apple, right? And
right.
So at that point...
But I'm just assuming that the reported age of Adam is... If we're going to take young Earth creationism seriously as a hypothesis, then the reported age of Adam would have been from his creation. So if the Bible says he was, 600 years old when he had Seth, then we can say the pre-fall couldn't have been longer than that.
If you think for 1 second that they're going to suggest that aging happened pre-fall, because they were eating from that tree of life too, right?
Well, okay, but then what is... So do you think that the reported age is since the fall?
I think that creationists are going to flip it around however they want to flip it around. I mean,
that's fair, yeah.
Timescale. I'm saying that there's wiggle room for them biblically to be like, they're eating from the tree of life. Doesn't count.
We have a $5 super chat from Terry James who says, creationists would also have to believe that sharks are vegetarian. See if a shark can chew on a leaf. And, yeah, there are some non-carnivore, or there are some sharks that will take small amounts of plant matter here and there, but it's not clear to what degree they are actually digesting it, and to what degree they're doing it like when a dog eats grass.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's like a shark is living in a mangrove swamp and they're like leaping out of the water to nibble
And this was something that I point out in my debate with Cody. So one huge problem with death before sin, if there really was no death before sin, then there would be a problem with overpopulation. That would be a huge, huge problem.
Yeah, how do you be fruitful and multiply and then nothing dies? Like, especially with things with short generation times, you would be up to your eyeballs in bacteria.
Yeah, that's the weird thing too, right? Is that they sure did wait until after the big goof up to start pumping out kids. Which, you know, to me, I know Walton has an idea where that he proposes that it's like, all right, like you've got two separate creation events. You've got like humanity, right? And then you've got like the archetypical humans, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting question that I think an answer is almost impossible to get.
Well, I think the reason for that is I actually am not of the opinion that the authors of the biblical texts were expecting people to take these stories as actual historical events. I think they were created as myths in the strict like scholarly sense of what a myth is, where it's a story that tells you about why things are the way they are, and it's not important that it be factual. It's important that it give you the lesson that you're supposed to learn from it.
Right.
So, like, there's the story, if we go to, say, the American sort of national mythology, which does exist, you get stories about, you know, chopping down the cherry tree. It's an event that almost certainly didn't happen. It doesn't matter. It's talking about the importance of honesty, especially in public life, and extra especially if you're going to go into politics. It's an oft-ignored story by politicians. However, that's the reason it's a myth in America. And
Eric is plotting big time over here. Eric, your face is obscured by robot pixels.
Yeah, I think maybe maybe try to reconnect. Although we're actually going to be wrapping up pretty soon because there's only about 2 minutes of this, and I happen to know that a lot of it is just them talking about what's on the sheet and wrapping up. So I think we're just going to skip the last couple minutes. We're going to do some quick wrap up stuff. So Eric, do you have anything you want to tell the people?
Yes. So I have mentioned this a few times before. So to all the people who are not aware, so this same guy, he once he found out that I'm no longer a YEC, when I told him why, I'm pretty certain that he's trying to convert me back to YEC, and so
that would be fun to watch.
So this is just his way of trying to do mental gymnastics and try to say it in a different way without trying to come across as, hey, I want you to come back to YEC. So kind of like when Bill Nye toured the Ark Encounter, this guy wants me to do the same thing, but at this museum. And so I may be able to do it over the summertime because I won't have school over the summer, but I got 2 things planned for the summer. I'm going to go see my grandpa, and I also plan on a dinosaur dig, so either it will be sometime in between, but yeah, but if I go, I definitely want it recorded, so I'll have to find somebody like who will record it and whatnot. I definitely want to do it live, so if I do it live, I'll have to make sure that my phone is fully charged and whatnot.
and not on a 2005 camera phone like this looks like it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
2005. That's generous.
Hey, I like to be nice to people.
But yeah, when that happens, it's gonna be so weird for me to do it. It's because that, you know, last time I went was when I was still a YEC. So yeah, it's gonna. And last time I saw him in person was when I was a YEC. And yeah, that definitely is something I look forward to doing. When it'll happen, I have no idea. But yeah, likely during the summertime.
I was just going to say, oh, you should take a trip to Phoenix and come say hi again. But then I realized, no, you shouldn't. It's going to be the summer in Phoenix. Stay away.
Oh God, yeah, it's healthy.
No, actually, of all the people I've met on YouTube, Eric is actually the only one I've met in person. Because he was in Phoenix, late last year?
I was in December time. It was because of the fact that I thought that, hey, the weather here in Montana is going to be pretty crappy during Christmas time, and I kind of want to get away from that. And then when I got knowledge that you lived in Arizona too, I was like, hey, this will be my perfect opportunity to actually get to meet you in person. And I have been on YouTube for over 10 years now, and I've had so many chances to meet so many of my YouTubers, but none of those happened. But then finally, I got to meet one of my YouTube friends in person, and what I was gonna say, next time when I'm in Arizona, you and I, I mean, you and I should definitely hang out again.
Oh, absolutely. We went to see the Victoria T-Rex specimen that is currently touring the U.S., and I'm not sure if it's still in Phoenix, but it was in Phoenix at the time.
Hey, well, come on out to Southern Indiana. I'm very short drive to the OG Creation Museum.
Ooh, that is tempting. And actually, I'm working on, or well, I'm not just working. Chesh and I are working on a time when she's gonna be visiting my area. So we have some things planned, and I'm sure that we'll do some stuff that will end up on one of our channels. I don't know. So we're gonna do some stuff. We're gonna tour the botanical garden in Phoenix, which is quite nice. Especially if you manage to get there right towards the end of spring where everything is blooming. But even if you don't, it's still very nice. That's also where my mom, who you just heard today, nearly had heat exhaustion.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, well, we bought her a bottle of water. And so so we bought her one at the beginning of the day, right? Everyone, we bought 3 bottles of water, one for me, one for my father, one for my mom. And then by the time my dad and I both finished our water, we go and there's a little refill station so you can refill your water, because they don't want people dying there.
Smart.
Right. So we fill ours up, and then my dad turns to my mom. He's like, "Oh, hey, can I refill your water?" She's like, "No, I'm fine." And we both look at each other with this puzzled look. We look back at her like, "What?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I still have most of this bottle left." And we're like, "Well, that's not good."
Yeah, you're like, you need to down that water now.
Yeah, so we took her into a shaded area, and as we're walking there, she's like, "Oh, I'm starting to feel dizzy." And it's like, "Yeah, because you haven't been drinking any water out in the 95-degree desert sun." So
no thanks on that heat exhaustion. Big pass.
Oh, and then Monk Mayfair says, "Make sure Chesh doesn't put boobs on the stream." Yeah, it'll be a bit of an iffy one. Did you guys hear about that?
I did not.
Yes.
Yeah, so on Team Skeptic's last stream, he got a community strike, and one of the things that was put up was an MS Paint picture consisting of, I believe, 7 circles, which was labeled as boobs that Cheshire had drawn in paint, and yeah. So apparently, and we're actually no one's sure if that's what actually was the thing that got him the community guideline strike. There were a few other things that could have perhaps been reported, but Erika, what do you got coming up?
Ooh, man. Oh, God. What do I have coming up? I recorded last evening a video on why humans hiccup. So it's a very interesting tale that stretches all the way back to the Devonian. It's going to be a cool video. And then I'm very reluctantly slogging my way through the rest of the 7 myths by Genesis Apologetics, which I said I was doing last time, but I actually am doing this time. What else? I'm thinking about maybe tackling this rather large video by the OG, of course, Answers in Genesis, where they cover the evolution of the ape to man, what are they calling it? Hold on, I have it pulled up here in the background.
Oh, by the way, on your hiccuping thing, if you don't show a hiccuping axolotl, I will riot.
Oh no, it's happening. There's going to be quite a few hiccuping little clips I'm almost certainly going to get demonetized for. The Evolving Ape Man dividing or whatever, that's the AIG video. So
okay.
This Ryan Osborne is leading it. He looks quite a bit like a squirrel monkey, which is very interesting. So
well, I think Ken Ham looks kind of like a werewolf. So
Ken Ham, I've seen Ken Ham, the classic meme where it's him slowly morphing into a common chimp. Checks out. He's got like the mutton chops that goes with it. And what else? Let's see. Dapper and I are going to be hanging out with Chesh and Unholy Rose tomorrow to finish the 100 questions for atheists, which I'm sure is going to be just as riveting as all of the other 70 or so questions.
But Erika, why do you hate Jesus?
Yeah, and why? For the same reason that I hate Christmas, apparently.
Yeah, and did you know that Christmas is a Christian holiday?
Yeah, so is Easter, evidently.
God, these are such bad questions.
Mind blown. Yeah, they really scraped the bottom of the barrel with that one. Let me think. I'm hoping to maybe get a debate scheduled soon, but I don't know who it will be with or I don't know.
Nathan Thompson.
No.
You have patience of a saint.
Oh, it was tested sorely on that one.
Yeah, that one was that one it reached levels of absurdity where I was like, honestly, it's getting a little bit funny.
The first question the entire time.
I know.
Yeah, it was
because
right.
they did.
When he put on the globe head and started dancing around, I knew exactly what with. I was like, well, what are you gonna do?
Oh, nice. We have a $10 super chat from Sphere itself, who says, I thoroughly enjoyed the stream. This is both for the stream and last night's after show that I couldn't find until today. Crying face. As soon as this is over, I'll be watching it. Well, thank you very much for your super chat, Sphere itself. I'm glad that you enjoyed both the after show as well as this stream. Saturday is not always a stream day. It's often a stream day, but Tuesdays are basically always a stream day. Normally it's Kent with Bent, and which is actually what I'm going to be talking about. So I'll just, that segues nicely into my channel news. So, as Erika said, on Sunday at some time, I'm not sure exactly when, we are planning on doing the final episode of 100 Questions for Atheists, which initially I was a little bit skeptical of, because this isn't a channel about atheism, nor do I come out and say whether or not I identify as an atheist. However, after watching the questions, I was like, oh no, these are terrible. I totally want to answer these. Doesn't matter. In fact, I would be interested to see some very much theists answer some of these questions. Because even if you're the wrong type of Christian, they'll make you cringe. Let's see. Tuesday will be Kent with Bent 26. Unless, of course, there's something that goes off. For instance, the Bent's hospital job is... How much work they're going to have on any given day is very much up in the air. It could be anything from some crazy amount where he'll have to stay late to essentially nothing. So I might get with Erika and see if we can do an Eric with Erika in case Kent with Bent doesn't work out. So, but if it does work out, it'll be Kent with Bent 26, the one that almost didn't happen ever. Let's see. Then Thursday, right now it's looking like it's going to be the next episode, or the final episode of Noah's Zookeeper. But that's not for certain. There's a few other things that I'm working on that might bump it out of that slot. And then I don't know what's going on a week from now. It's something. Let's see. Oh, and James Downer says that his debate with Standing for Truth should be around 6:15 Pacific time tomorrow on human origins. I think that's going to be a modern day debate. So,
I think I've seen something about that on modern day debate.
Which actually, that might mean that there may be an after show. So,
Ooh, I would do an after show. I've got to chat with RJ beforehand.
Okay.
There's some things standing is that rascal. He's still pushing.
All right. Well.
So.
And Speed of Sound of Gravity says, "Tell me you're a real dinosaur for $5." Well, Speed of Sound of Gravity. I mean, you've seen me talk in my videos. Clearly, that's obviously real. So I don't see what the question is as to whether or not I'm really a dinosaur. Although I guess my brother isn't, because you guys have seen him on camera. So make of that what you will.
So maybe your brother was just adopted by a dinosaur family?
Or I was adopted by a human family.
Yeah, true. There's also that.
There's a lot more human families out there than there are Ceratosaurus families out there. I'll just say that. So let's see what else is going on. So yeah, actually, you know what, RJ, and get with me on Twitter or something about whether or not we should schedule an after show. In which case, there will be an after show, and we can actually get the link to James beforehand, and maybe even Standing, on the off chance that Standing wants to show up for an after show.
Yeah.
Standing's usually doing movie night with his folks, so we'll see. I would love to get Standing on an after show. But as he and Raw Matt have previously said, why would you go on paraphrase, of course, but why would you go on an after show to be drilled essentially by 5 evolutionists, firing at full cylinders?
That's not what happened with G-Man.
We love G-Man, man. He was a blast to have on. He was very chill.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah, he the fact that he outperformed Neffy speaks volumes of old Neffy's conduct.
My goodness. Oh, actually, Atheist Junior, if you're out there, I am still planning on playing your video about Kent Hovind doxing on the next Kent with Bent. So,
still to this day, your debate with G-Man has been one of the best debates that I have ever seen.
My debate with G-Man?
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
That is very kind of you.
All right, well, I think we are going to get out of here, except I do want to point out, I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but Seth Ben Abraham, if my Hebrew reading skills aren't failing me, although that's not how you would have said it in Hebrew, but I'm anglicizing heavily here, has pointed out that he is not far from the Creation Museum either, Erika, and he was on one of my Leaving Young Earth Creationism, so...
Yeah, I need to go and watch that episode, because that's what I was thinking. I saw him just say that, and I was like, there's got to be a great story, because he said he worked at the Creation Museum, right? And
I think it was like, the Ark Encounter.
The Ark Park, yeah.
Yeah, so that might be an interesting channel video after things open back up. If Gutsa Gibbon and a former AIG employee tour the Creation Museum.
That would be a blast. Oh my god. The thing is I haven't been to the Creation Museum since I was an absolute youngster. I was like in 8th grade, or 7th or 8th grade, so like, what is that, 12 or 13? Very young and impressionable. And the sad thing is, I remember thinking it was the coolest thing. They had like a section on dragons, and I was like, oh, sick, dragons. Who doesn't love a good dragon? So it would be very fun to head back, although I did see they've done quite a bit of remodeling, and apparently there's fewer animatronics.
Apparently it's now a bunch of signs, because that's what people want to go to see in a museum. It's like the thing people are most likely to skip over is the thing they're emphasizing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Eric, you're inaudible.
I said, why in the world would they replace the animatronics with signs?
Cheaper to maintain, I would guess.
Great question. But the thing is that's the thing I liked the most. That was the
yeah. All right. Well, I think there's only one other thing I want to mention, which is if you look at the stream from last night on Team Skeptic's channel, I believe. I think it's Team Skeptic's channel. It is a podcast that he and Fight the Flat Earth did, although actually it was mostly Fight the Flat Earth for most of that time because he was the one who had internet connection. But they did a stream where they went on a podcast, and yours truly got a bit of a shout out towards the end there, so go check that out if you want to. They were supposed to talk with someone claiming to be the second coming of Jesus, but apparently he got mixed up with timelines, or not timelines, time zones, because apparently Jesus can't figure out time zones. So he didn't make it.
Yeah, I like to think that he really did get mixed up with timelines.
Well, that could be, yeah. He stumbled into the horrible timeline.
Yeah, it turns out he just he picked the wrong since we all of course worship the multiverse.
Yes.
He slipped into that one, huh?
All right, well, I want to say thank you for everyone who showed up. I think we had a peak concurrent somewhere in the mid-70s. So this is a pretty well attended one. I want to especially thank those of you who super chatted in Vandalian 1998, Josiah Hansen, Terry James, Sphere Itself, and Speed of Sound of Gravity, as well as my patrons. So thank you very much. I will see you hopefully maybe even 2 times tomorrow. So
maybe even times true.
Yeah. All right. Later, everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye bye.